start with the pledge to the flag. So I would ask everyone to please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Council will come to order. Clerk, please call the roll.
Schmidt?
Here.
Tryon?
Here.
Godwin?
Here.
Hensley?
Here.
Cottershell?
Here.
Oliver?
Here.
Rogers?
Here.
Approval of the minutes. We received copies of the June 20th and also the special June the 8th meeting. Any additions or corrections? Seeing none, they will stand approved as presented. Approval of the current financial report. You've also received copies of that, hard copies in your mailboxes, as well as emailed copies. Do I hear a motion to approve that? Pardon?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to approve the current financial report. Call roll.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Cottershell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Approval of the agenda. I have nothing to add or delete at this time unless someone else has something.
Move to accept the agenda as presented.
Motion by Mr. Oliver to accept the agenda as presented. Discussion. Call the roll.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Cottershell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Public hearing. We have 2 scheduled, but actually it's about 4 altogether. The first one is the 18 budget. That has been available for review. We do have a committee assignment report that will be read at the committee report section of the meeting tonight, and out of the Finance Committee regarding the 2018 proposed budget. But if anyone has any questions or comments or issues with the 2018 proposed budget, now is the time to state your case and go from there. I see you all just grabbed pieces of that and went over it with a fine-tooth comb. But it has been reviewed by the Finance Committee, and as I said, if is that legislation prepared? Should approve the. Oh, just to send it to the. Okay, good enough. We won't have to add it then. Okay, I'll declare this portion of the public hearing on that issue closed, and note that we did have a public hearing for that. Now, the next items, actually there are 3 recommendations from the Planning and Zoning Commission regarding pedestrian sign requirements, mural requirements, and extending boundaries to cover the full downtown enterprise DE zone. We will take them in the order that they're given here. So anyone wanting to talk about regarding pedestrian sign requirements, please come to the microphone, state your name and address, state your case. We have a good attendance tonight, and I appreciate that. If you will, please, I'm not going to set a limit so that you don't have like 2 minutes or anything of that nature. But if someone speaks and says something, the same thing that you were going to say, please let that suffice. And again, respect everyone's opinion, even though it's different than yours. I don't like cheering and jeering and applause and hooting and hollering. We'll do this in a dignified manner. So if anyone would like to address this issue, now is the time. Please state your name and address when you approach the...
Hi, good evening. I'm Krista Hutchinson with Main Street Greenville, which is housed at 421 South Broadway. So I would like to speak on behalf of Main Street Greenville regarding the pedestrian sign ordinance. If I could just have 1 second to kind of readjust my papers here, I apologize. So Main Street Greenville is supportive of the projecting sign ordinance. We believe that projecting signs, also known as pedestrian signs, blade signs, tend to pull pedestrians down the sidewalk. Environmental psychologist Paco Underhill says that the best sign in either case is one you can read fast and is positioned so you can read it while moving. So when people have to slow down or stop to read a sign that's too small or too many words, we think that signs fail. So with contrasting colors, large lettering, and proper positioning, walkers can see retail and restaurants ahead of them with little to no effort. Signs stimulate curiosity and diversity in downtown spaces. So catering to pedestrians with blade signs enhances visibility and can capture the attention of new customers on the street or the sidewalk. So we do believe that that passing this ordinance to allow businesses to install the pedestrian signs on their business is a good thing. We are in support of that. And in that vein, I would like to pass around some examples of the types of signs that we're looking at just to help prevent any confusion or misunderstandings about the types of things we're discussing. So if you wouldn't mind passing those along. So I'll just give a minute for those to be able to be passed out to council to kind of glance over them and see if there are any concerns. So these would be governed by the currently existing architecture review board, which there's the district, which encompasses the downtown businesses. So while I'm not a voting member on the ARB, I am a representative for Main Street Greenville. So if you have any questions about these, I'd love to be able to try and answer those for you, or if not, can defer to the architecture review board.
There are a couple examples that you've given in these photos that there was a lot of time spent in the mid-'80s on the current streetscape in downtown Greenville, and it was projected for us to establish it more of a certain period with the historical aspect of the downtown and the buildings. And there's a couple of a little bit more modern design. Are you proposing that those would be acceptable in that instance, or are more like the other signs that are a lot more ornate and maybe period?
We believe it should reflect the nature of the business. Obviously, a lot of the businesses that we have downtown are housed in historic properties, and so we want to be respectful to that. It does say, I believe, in the ordinance that the hanging element of the sign, the metal portion, should be consistent with the other materials that are on the building. So I would say there does need to be some coherency to that design of that nature, but obviously that is up to the discretion of the ARB, who is more than willing to work with the businesses, with the property owners, on finalizing the designs for those.
Well, the reason I ask is, you know, the agriculture or the architectural review board was set up because of the Main Street being redone, and it was set up in such a way to continue on in that period of time. The board changes, individuals change, and it, you know, if we keep allowing each individual board as they evolve to reflect, we're going to be back to where it was beforehand when it wasn't cohesive. And that's why I asked. I mean, there are some great examples here that you've given that I think reflect on the period. I just wondered how it will be established in the code that's currently for the architectural review, how it will be handled there.
And I mean, I do think it is important to note that the Architecture Review Board is comprised of business owners, property owners, people who are invested in downtown, who want to see it thrive, who want to see it succeed. It is people who are design professionals, architects, who have knowledge about these sorts of things. So it's not like we're just turning these over to people without any experience or knowledge in that. And also that board is appointed by the mayor, I do believe. So I think that speaks to some element of trust there with the Architecture Review Board. Obviously, they would be the ones making the final decision. And as I said before, I'm not a voting member, but I do sit in on the meetings as the Main Street Greenville representative. And so, while yes, I think it is important to recognize the historic nature of the district, these are also not permanent additions. They are things that can be removed that will not permanently alter the streetscape.
The size of the signs, they would be pretty much the same as far as the square footage or square inches or whatever. And
Yes.
would they all be at the same height from the street or from the sidewalk?
The height can be staggered, but let me find the sign ordinance here. They must be a minimum of 8 feet above the ground and no larger in size than 5 square feet. 5 square feet sounds like a lot, but when it's hanging 8 feet off the ground, off of the side of the business, it really does not look that large. So,
I just
yes.
don't want them to look gaudy.
Right, absolutely. We understand that. So yes, both of those requirements are included in the wording of the ordinance the way it's currently written. I would like to speak to all three, but if council would prefer, I can wait until the floor is open to the other ordinances to speak to those.
That would be better.
Okay. Any other questions that I can help answer? All right. Thank you for your time.
I have a question for the law director. Put you on the spot here. If this comes to fruition, would that necessitate some changes in our codified ordinance and zoning and planning? It would, because that, pardon?
Yes.
Yeah, so it would have to be worked in with that. They have to work under our parameters.
Correct.
That's correct. Okay, thank you. Anyone else on this issue? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to the mural requirements.
Me again.
Should have just let you stay there.
So once again, as a representative of Main Street Greenville, I would like to express our support for the mural project. We believe that the links between the economic health of a community and the quality of its social bonds are becoming increasingly clear. Sociologists have supplied convincing evidence that strong social connections are necessary ingredients for economic success. So the art of promoting constructive interaction among people in public spaces has been nearly forgotten in many communities. But we believe that crowded, pedestrian-friendly, and active spaces are safer, more economically productive, and more conducive to healthy civic communities. So what attracts people most is other people, and we do believe that murals have a role to play in attracting people to our downtown district, which in turn helps it to be more safe and a space for civic involvement. So once again, to help assuage any potential concerns or confusion, I also have examples of some murals that I would like to provide. Mr. Mayor, could you please pass these out for me? Yes. Sorry. Thank you. I apologize if there are not enough for everyone. I thought I had 7. Sorry. Thank you. Darren Walker, the vice president of the Rockefeller Foundation, is credited with saying, "Public art is public good. It's the embodiment of the American ideal in spirit and deed. It is a reflection of our democratic values. It is also economically viable." There is an art installation in New York called Waterfalls. It cost the city $15.5 million. but it brought in, according to the Public Art Fund, $69 million for the city, which is an ROI of 345%. We believe that there could be a similar return on investment for murals within downtown Greenville as a way to promote tourism to our downtown area, which is already doing very well in terms of tourism and the attractions that we have here. There are several examples throughout research literature about how murals have helped communities in terms of bolstering tourism and a sense of community. One example is the town of Chemainus in British Columbia, which is in Canada. Facing economic disaster with the closure of its sawmill, the town commissioned murals featuring historical images of things like sailing ships, logging, mining, things that related to the town itself and its unique identity. This was done in 1982 as part of a downtown revitalization program. 10 years after the first murals were unveiled, more than 70 businesses, including restaurants, galleries, antique, and gift shops, had opened. So this was a town that was virtually on the brink of disaster. And through the benefit of tourism, through public art, they were able to see a really good turnaround, obviously with more businesses coming to the area, opening, providing that sort of economic stability. And so we are hoping that the addition of murals to the downtown district would have a similar economic impact, helping to increase tourism and bring more people to our downtown district. So once again, if there are any questions, I would love to be able to try and help answer those.
I don't have any questions.
Sure.
I've been through Cuba, Missouri, which is on old Route 66. Granted, old Route 66 is a historical type thing.
Right.
But the town of Cuba is, every building practically has murals on it. And it's because of that period of time and the area, and
Right.
it brings in a lot of
Absolutely.
revenue there. Also, if anybody's ever been down to Portsmouth, Ohio on the flood wall, that is one. And as far as Portsmouth itself, there's not a whole lot there as far as to just go there, but people go there to see the flood wall and the
Right.
murals on the flood wall, and it looks very nice.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Many of the examples that are included in that packet do come from Ohio. I think the one on the front page is from Canton, Ohio. So this is something that other communities around the state are doing, rural communities like are here in Darke County, and they're seeing the benefits of it in their communities. Obviously, Main Street Greenville is part of the Heritage Ohio network, so I get to meet with and talk to other Main Street managers throughout Ohio, and this is something that they're doing in their communities, and they have found to be beneficial.
How many are you expecting? I mean, if you had a turnout, what would you be expecting? 2 more? A dozen more?
I think it depends on the property owners. Obviously, it is. We're not going to force anyone to do murals. If no one wants to, then we'll have 0. But we have heard interest from people in the downtown district who would like to have them on their properties. I don't have an exact number for you. I think it would. We would install a couple ideally and see how it goes. Are we seeing a benefit from this? Are there other property owners who want to install them?
Well, the one concerning Zachary Lansdowne is somewhat spectacular. It's in a good location, highly visible, adds to the surroundings, et cetera, et cetera. I was just in my own mind trying to figure out where else,
Absolutely.
someone might want to put one.
Right. And obviously being newer to the community, I don't necessarily have a list of locations off the top of my head that I can say, yes, these would all be great locations. But I think, again, that's where we defer back to the Architecture Review Board and say these are people invested in the community. These are people who have been here for a long time and would be able to make good decisions regarding those types of things.
Now, they wouldn't have anything to do per se with advertising.
No, that is included in the language of the ordinance as well, that they won't have any advertising aspects to them.
Would these murals be permanently painted on the side of the building, or would they be a panels attached to the building?
They would be painted on the building, but only on buildings where paint has already been applied to brick. So we would not be painting over brick that has never before been painted. Obviously, we want to protect the integrity of the brick building sides, but if they have previously been painted over, they would then be primed, the mural would be applied, and then at some point down the line, if the property owner wanted to remove that, it could be painted over.
Who has ownership of the mural?
I believe it would go to the property owner then, to my understanding. I mean, since it's on their building.
And how would the choosing of the subjects be? Would that be the Architectural Review Board again, or?
It would go through. Currently, with the language in the ordinance, a recommendation letter from Main Street Greenville is required, and then it would be put in front of the Architecture Review Board to make that decision.
I'm going to ask the law director, and maybe I just read the legislation wrong, but I thought in the legislation it was like the ownership was of the Architectural Review Board, not the property owner.
That's what they proposed, yes.
I could be incorrect in that, so I apologize if that's.
I would have a problem with that part, and that may be need to revise.
Any other questions?
Anyone else wanting to speak to the issue on the mural requirements?
All right, thank you.
All right, and moving on to extending the boundaries to cover the full downtown enterprise DE zone district. Now, don't everybody run to the microphone at once. I think that's what everybody's here for.
Get in line.
Mr. Ballingy, go ahead, please.
My name's Harry Ballingy. I live at 145 West Water Street in Greenville. Mr. President, esteemed council members, Mr. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen, the Architectural Review Board, by extending these boundaries, would be tripling the area of their of what they're in charge of, and most of those properties in that area are single-family residences. The Planning and Zoning Commission and the City Council have all kinds of laws and regulations to control the single-family residences. My house was built in 1884, and I had a garage built, and I came to the Planning and Zoning Commission to get a variance for the height. I wanted to make it a two-story garage, and they gave that to me, but they had control of that. I just recently made a contract for new windows for my house, which I've been saving for years. Everybody would know what windows for my house would be. It's a two-story. I got 26 windows. And during the interview with the contractor, he says, "Do you have a historical review board?" And I said, "No, I'm not in a historical review board." I said, "Why?" He said, "Well, we have to present a plan, make out a plan, take it to that board, and it's going to cost, you'll have to pay for us to do that, plus it'll probably delay your construction time from 1 to 3 months, depending on how often they meet and how long it takes for them to review and approve anything. So I'm glad I'm getting this in ahead of time." So I can understand reviewing signs and kiosks and things of that nature where tourists and the economy is but for the single-family residences, I don't understand why I would have to be included in that. If I would be included in it, then you probably ought to have all the single-family residences in the city included into it. It's kind of unfair, I believe. So if you might consider either not approving this, eliminating the single-family residences out of it, or approving for all cities, single-family residences in the city. We want to make it fair, and so I'm here to say that I don't want my property included into this. So that's all. If anyone has any questions of me, I think that I'll keep mine as brief as I can.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Kathleen Neely. I live at 135 East 5th Street. I've lived in this house since 1973, so that's 44 years. And with the changes, my house would be included in this new district. I object to the district under these circumstances for 3 reasons. The first reason is because, to be honest with you, the letter that I got, I had a great deal of difficulty understanding what you were talking about. And I'm sure there are people out there who are not here tonight who absolutely have no clue. It didn't make very clear what they were talking about. And when it says go to the website said absolutely nothing. I called the city building. The first lady passed me on to someone else who finally said, oh, it's the Architectural Review District. Oh, well, I didn't know that. I'm thinking, why do I have to go to this meeting? So that's my first objection. I feel there needs to be more public input on this. If people are going to be faced with perhaps tens of thousands of dollars of expenses regarding their own homes, I think they ought to have a little bit more input. My second objection is because I'm really not sure what went into the choosing of the district. Last night, I took my little 9-year-old granddaughter and we walked the perimeter of the proposed district, as I'm sure everybody here has. And there are a lot of things in there that are not very historical. The AutoZone store, to mention just one. And as I walked around the street, a lot of things really didn't make sense to me. For example, as I was going across on 11th Street, it may be Dever at that point, I'm not sure. It's a very decrepit house there. But on Washington, just 2 doors down, there's a National Registered house. And why isn't that there? A lot of the properties seem to be parking lots and empty spaces. And once the junior high's torn down, that will be even more. Why is St. Mary's School included? I mean, that doesn't seem to me to be very historical. As I said, I walked the whole district around, got over to, it would be East 4th Street, East 3rd Street. And the first 3 houses across from the St. Clair Manor were on it, and they're lovely homes. They really are lovely homes. But they're newer, they're from the 1930s. What about the rest of the block? What about on the other side of Ash Street, where I believe you have another National Registered home and some beautiful old homes? What about going down to the creek? Those 2 homes there, let me see, which would be 203 and 110 West Broadway and 102, beautiful homes. Why aren't they included? It just seemed to me that more planning was needed as to what should be included and what should not. The little bit at 125 West 5th Street, which used to be a very nice historical white house and is now a lawyer's office, no offense to the lawyers in the group here, all right, but it would take a great deal to turn that back into what it was historically. That's Margaret, what's her name? Hayes, okay. Me. I was going to say Margaret Bertram. It's been a long time ago. All right. And so that's my second objection, is because I thought there were really a lot of questions that I had about what was included and what was not included. We went uptown to the city building, and the very nice young man gave us this booklet. I'm assuming that everyone else has picked up one of these. This is the 22-page booklet of guidelines for the historical district. If this goes through, This really needs to be revised, but I'm assuming that if you accept this new district, this will go along with it. Most of the things have no relevance at all to a family home, as you mentioned, and it includes such things as landscaping, the plants that you can have in your yard, the stucco, the frame buildings, the roofs. I'll come back to the roof in a minute. Exterior painting, the colors that you can use, windows and doors, which we've just heard about, shutters, signs, and so on. All of these would really put a burden on your normal homeowner. There's a home, it's a double, that's kind of catty-cornered for me, and those people have been trying to sell that for quite some time, and it's really a nice building. If you walk past at night, you can see beautiful wood and so on, but it really needs repair. And I'm not surprised if this is hanging over their head that they've had trouble selling the building. So these are my objections. I want to give you just a personal example of what this might mean to other people. My husband and I moved in 1973. Several years later, our roof was leaking, so we had to have the roof repaired. Our roof on our house is curved red tile. All right? Yes, exactly. We had to go to Chicago to find somebody who would repair this roof for us. So they brought down some people from Chicago. We had all the tile. We had all the tile we needed. But the work and the underroofing and so on, do you know, we paid almost as much as we paid for the house to have that roof rebuilt and replaced. If you have any questions for me, I'll be glad to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Once again, as the representative for Main Street Greenville, I would like to express our support for the expansion of the Architecture Review District. So first, I would like to address how the district boundaries were established, how those were decided on. The ordinance suggests that the Architecture Review District, which already takes place downtown, be expanded to include the entire downtown enterprise district. So everything laid out in the bounds of this new proposed district is already within the bounds of the downtown enterprise district, meaning it is duly zoned for both residential and commercial use. So if someone wanted to start a business in their home, they can do that within this downtown enterprise district. So as Main Street Greenville, and we're hoping to see the downtown area expand, to grow, to bring in more businesses, we do feel it is necessary to protect what has already been established as the enterprise district for the city. So that is how the boundaries, those lines for this new proposed district were decided upon, and why they were proposed that way to both the Architecture Review Board and the Planning and Zoning Commission, who approved it. I do think there may be some confusion about the guidelines about things that maybe can and cannot be done under this. I do want to express that the Architecture Review Board, once again, they are community members who are invested, they're business owners, they're property owners, they are design professionals, and they are more than willing to work with property owners on an individual case-by-case basis. I know oftentimes members of the Architecture Review Board will go out and do site visits to look at the property to see what specifics there are for this case. So it's not, while yes, we do apply the design guidelines, it is a case-by-case basis decision made. In talking with the Architecture Review Board at the last meeting, it was brought up, how many times has the Architecture Review Board said no to something? And to their memory, it was never, really. It was always, well, what if there's another way of doing this? What are compromises that we can make? What are ways that we can, as design professionals, as people who have experience in construction, in renovation, how can we work with you to find cost-effective materials that still maintain the aesthetic integrity of the historic property? So that's not to say that someone couldn't put vinyl siding on their home. I should have brought them with me. The stack of paint swatches, which are technically historic colors, is probably this thick. So I know paint is a large concern. I know vinyl siding is a large concern. I know windows are a large concern. The Architecture Review Board, I know, has in the past made decisions to allow newer windows to be installed versus having to put in original, like, single pane wood windows, which we recognize are very cost prohibitive. And so the Architecture Review Board does want to be very sensitive to those issues and want to work with homeowners. So just a little bit more about what the preservation ordinance can do and what it can't do and why Main Street Greenville is in support of these. The preservation ordinance authorizes design guidelines for new development within historic districts to ensure that it is not destructive to the area's historic character. We view the downtown district and the downtown enterprise district as being things that people are stewards of, that we want these to be around for generations to come. And if insensitive design is allowed to take place, if demolition and demolition by neglect is allowed to take place, we believe we're losing community assets that can be used. So it's essentially ensuring that there is no destructive design, no insensitive design happening in our downtown enterprise district. It's also about stabilizing declining neighborhoods and protecting enhancing property values. Some things I think it's important to know: the ordinance does not require that historic properties be open for tours. It does not restrict the sale of property. It does not require improvements, changes, or restoration. These are only for future changes. It does not prevent new construction, does not require approval for ordinary repair or maintenance, and it does not require approval for interior changes or alterations. So all just things that I would like to have on record regarding the ordinance. Like I mentioned, it can provide review of proposed demolitions within the district and provide delays to allow for preservation alternatives to be considered. So there are some very historically significant properties that are currently not protected, most notably being Memorial Hall, the library, things like St. Clair Manor. While they are listed on the National Register of Historic Places, that provides no protection for those properties. The National Register is more of an honorary designation than anything in terms of protection. Those properties would fall within the expanded district and would help to provide a delay in terms of demolishing them. At this point, there are no protections on those properties to prevent for the demolition of them, to my knowledge. So just quickly to discuss some benefits of local historic districts. Local districts protect the investments of owners and residents. So again, going back to the fact that we view these properties as an investment, that we view them as things that should be stewarded. Several empirical studies bear this fact out, that it does increase and protect property values. There was one study done in 9 Texas cities where hedonic regression models to estimate housing prices in historic districts were compared, and the results suggest that in most cases, historic designation is associated with higher property values. Another study, an analysis done in 2007, showed that home values rose 5% to 35% per decade in more than 20 historic districts nationwide. So viewing these as an investment, viewing this as something that would be good for both the homeowners and the city in terms of increased property value. Some other benefits, local districts, we believe, encourage better design. It has also been shown through comparative studies that there is a greater sense of relatedness, more innovative use of materials, and greater public appeal within historic districts, which again would lend themselves to tourism. I'm sure many of you have been in cities, thing like Charleston, South Carolina, where people will go to walk around historic neighborhoods to see homes that have been preserved. This is a new element of tourism, where people go to see these preserved homes. We would like to have something similar for Greenville. Local districts help the environment. The educational benefits of creating local districts are the same as those derived from any other historic preservation effort. As I said, it can result in a positive impact from tourism economically. The protection of local historic districts can enhance business recruitment potential. Companies continually relocate to communities that offer their workers a higher quality of life, which is greatly enhanced by local preservation programs. Local districts provide social and psychological benefits, and we do believe that in approving this ordinance to expand to what is already outlined as the downtown enterprise district is something that would be positive for Greenville, both in the short and long term.
Several of the things that you brought up that I believe were meant to put at ease some of the concerns.
Sure.
They still leave unknowns.
Mm-hmm.
And you keep referring to the Architectural Review Board. You said that they haven't said no, and they allow this and that, and they work with the people. But what you're saying is they're very subjective, not objective. And when you start putting individual feelings into it, how do you pick and choose? Why is this one okay and that one's not? How, and I think that's where the concern is. You look at the pamphlet that is available now with the rules and regulations on, and it's how did some things get allowed in downtown Greenville since that was evolved, and it makes you wonder, how are we keeping it, and how much thought was put into this legislation, with the advanced encompassing the enterprise zone, and I think there's just a lot of things there, and it goes back to the other two issues too that I'm not saying they're not good ideas, and there's not some well-meaning effort there to enhance the overall appeal of the city of Greenville, which we're always for, but just the infringement that is coming on individuals. With you're asking for their input after the fact. Legislation's already been drawn. Maybe they should have got more input before the legislation. Is that a possibility to make some changes there? Because I think that would address a lot of the concerns that are in this room tonight and a lot of the calls that we've received.
I would like to share that we had requested that the public hearing be held before the legislation was drafted. We were told that wasn't an option, that the legislation had to be drafted and lay for 30 days so that people could review it before a public hearing could be held. So it was originally our intention to allow a public hearing to take place before the legislation was drafted so that it then could be amended based upon the sentiment shared at the public hearing. I also, looking at our downtown district, many of those would not be as preserved as they are were it not for the Architecture Review Board. Many businesses have come in and done renovations based on and utilizing the Architecture Review Board, most notably recently the Merchant House, took great advantage of the Architecture Review District. I think many of the business owners downtown would speak to their positive experiences with the Architecture Review Board. We recognize the concerns. Those are not something that we take lightly. Those are not something that we're trying to wave off by adding the need to establish a certificate of appropriateness for projects. But we do believe that this is something that needs to be looked at from the long term. That if we want Greenville to thrive, if we want to attract a young, strong workforce, having protected communities is something that does that. It increases property values. Realtors will very often use historic districts, protected districts, as selling points because the people who are buying those homes know that there will be regulations in place in perpetuity which will keep their neighbor from coming in and erecting some monstrosity in the backyard. So those are selling points for people. So I do believe that this is something that would positively influence not only potential businesses, but also a residential element.
When you talk about somebody erecting a monstrosity of a building behind their home, they would have to go through the zoning, planning and zoning before something like that would get erected in the city of Greenville.
Sorry, continue.
And as far as, Mr. Ballingee's comment about his windows, if I owned a home that was in this area, I would not want it. Because if I had to go to a board to sit there and say, well, I want to put new vinyl windows in next week, and I got to go talk to somebody about doing it, it's, I'm totally against that. If somebody wants to put vinyl siding on their house, if they got to go up and look at splotches and see what colors they want to do on a residential home, like Harry said, why don't do all the homes in town? If I want to sit there and paint my house blue next week, that I can be able to go do that.
Mhm.
And not have to go to a board and review and have to wait 2 or 3 months to see what's going on.
Right. I think we also have to look at kind of the alternative side of it, where currently if someone had a historic home and wanted to brick over all of the windows and just put window air conditioning units in 6 out of their 10 windows, there's nothing to my knowledge in planning and zoning that would stop that, but it is architecturally insensitive to the structure itself. So the goal of the Architecture Review Board is to allow for the continuation. So if someone is adding an extension to their house, they don't have a beautiful brick house and they're putting a corrugated aluminum structure on the back of it, things like that. Something that would protect the architectural integrity, whereas planning and zoning doesn't necessarily have that authority.
One thing that I can see is like Mr. Ballingee's house built in the 1880s, and so let's say that he hadn't put windows in yet, and he went before the board and they say, well, with this being an 1880s house, we feel that you should have single pane windows and wood sashes and so forth. And then the next house down, they'd say, well, you can go ahead and put in the vinyl windows and et cetera. I think it's kind of iffy as to what property could do what.
Sure, I understand those concerns.
It would be entirely up to the review board as to, what their belief was. If you ask me and you ask Clarence, we might have 2 different opinions on it. And, one might end up with paying a lot of money to make it historical, where the other one didn't have to pay as much money.
Yeah, I totally understand those concerns. Obviously, I can't speak to the decisions that will be made by the Architecture Review Board. I'm not a voting member on it. But I will once again bring up the fact that they are professionals in what they do, that they have been appointed. The Architecture Review Board is a subset of the city. It is a city board. It's a city organization. So I would hope that there would be trust and cooperation between council and the ARB. So while I do understand that you have to address the concerns of the people who are here and your constituents, that would be my response to that, as these people are professionals who have been appointed by the city for this purpose. Any other questions that I can answer? Thank you again for your time.
Anyone else wishing to speak to this issue may do so at this time.
My name is Tim Neely. I live at 135 East 5th Street. Our house was built in 1919, and we know the history of it and so forth. One of the questions that has not been responded to, or perhaps not even asked, is the concept of funds. Where are people, residences? And Main Street Greenville is interested, obviously, principally in businesses, and I understand that. But residences, we don't operate under the same circumstances as businesses. We don't have the same backing, we don't have the same financing. And as my wife said, our roof, we called 14 businesses to try to get work done on our red tile roof. A third of them said the job was too small. A third of them said the job was too big. And a third of them said, oh, you don't want that. We'll come and put a good shingle roof on you, because that's what you really need. And so that's why we ended up going to Chicago, the only place we could find who would come down and do the work, and they did a wonderful job of it. But it cost us well over $25,000 to put the roof on the house, again, which was already there. So one of my concerns, and I'm sure everybody else, yes, we look toward the future. I'm very interested in history, obviously, and I look toward the future, but about half of us sitting here are not the future, we're the present, and we're not going to be here for the future. And yes, we want to bring in young people, and yes, keep the community going and so forth, but those of us who are here now don't have the funds and finances and the wherewithal to do all of that, even if we would like to do so. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Pete Hamer. I have a property downtown Greenville. It's outside the zone right now, but I think I got a letter that said that there's interest in bringing my building into to the area there that's going to be voted on. I'm like, you know, I haven't seen all this information that you've seen, these pictures. I have a lot of questions. My building is on the corner of Sycamore and West Main Street. It's the old Ed Lohman building. And you talk about history. There's history in that building. And I bought that about 22 years ago. Mike Baker helped me buy that building. He kept pushing me. He says, Pete, you need to buy that. Bill Wantz has an electric shop there. Of course, Ed Lohman used to be there. I mean, that place was a junky place. It was a mess. I said, no, Mike, I don't want to buy that. So 2 years later, he came back and says, Pete, you need to buy that building because you own the building, the Hemer building, where the Dark County Board of Realtors used to be, next door where my dad built Hemer's Ice Cream Company. And he says, you need to buy that. Well, I thought about it after 2 years, and I thought, well, if the price is right, I'll buy it. Well, I bought it right. And I put a lot of money into it. I had my cousin come in, and we started tearing out walls and doing this and that. This guy walks in the door, and he says, well, what are you doing? Well, I'm making a few changes. Well, it was a state inspector. He goes out to his car, and he comes back in with a packet about that thick of things I had to do to my building to bring it up to plumbing code, building codes, electrical codes, and all that. So I took the old Ed Lohman building, and I put a lot of money into it and fixed it up. And so now I'm at a place right now where you're considering bringing me into the district. And I've done a lot of work there and updated it internally and externally. I've thought about painting that old brick on the side, and everybody says, Pete, just so proud of you that you haven't painted that old brick on the side of that building, because it has arched doors. Well, those arched doors is where the Lohman brothers built their horse and buggy carriages and wagons. They'd take them out through those arched doors down to the Greenville Creek. And they'd put them in there, and the wood and the metal rims, they just swell up, and that's how they did it. So there's a lot of history there. And I think about the murals. I don't know what the murals are, but on the one end of my building, if you ever been down to Inglewood, they got big paintings on the side of those buildings. Is that the kind of murals they're talking about?
Right.
Yeah.
I got one flat end of that one building would be a beautiful place for murals, but I'm not going to pay for it. I don't know who's going to pay for it. That question came up, you know, who pays for the murals and things like that. But I put in some new windows. I took out the old single pane windows 3 years ago, and I put in some, probably about 16 windows up there. And are some of these things basically going to be grandfathered, I guess? Are they going to come in and say, Pete, you don't meet the standards. You don't meet what you're supposed to be doing. So do I have to take some of those windows out and replace them with different kind of windows? You know, what's going to be grandfathered? The signs, I heard you say, well, signs, the minimum for a sign is 8 feet. Well, the Hope Foundation is in my building. Interim Healthcare used to be in there. Well, I think the signs are only about that far off the ground. That doesn't meet the requirements. So I get a little uptight when I have to go before an architectural review committee and they say, Pete, you can't do this. I've done a lot to that building, and I hate to have people sit around and tell me that you got to do this. So I guess I need one of those books that tells you what you can do, what you can't do. I do have one renter that I wasn't too happy about it, but the corner property, Condon Insurance, they asked me, and I said, well, I'm not really for it, but they end up putting a neon sign in their front window. And as we drove up here tonight, I thought, well, I'm going to drive down Broadway, and I don't know whether that's in the book, neon signs, but there's probably 4 properties on on Broadway. The place you bond at down by Annie Oakley Park has neon signs, and my rental, Condon Insurance, has big neon signs. Not really happy about neon signs, but you know, if you tell my renter they got to take their neon sign out of there, they're not going to be too happy. But as a committee, you know, the paint's all right. You know, I don't mind them saying that, well, we got a stack of paint, but, you know, I'm going to be painting my building probably in the next year and a half, and, you know, I don't mind them telling me that, you know, this would look good on your old building, so I can go along with something like that. But there's a lot of things. I hope they don't grandfather me and cost me a lot of money, because I just put in new sidewalks and all that bit, and trying to make the place look nice. I put in flower beds on the one side. Hopefully you don't come in and tell me what kind of flowers I can plant or anything like that, which I just heard a little while ago. So anyhow, that's my point.
Thank you, Mr.
Whether,
What is your
whether I'm
address?
for it or against it, yes and no.
I said, what is your address, Mr. Hemer?
It's 300, the property is 300 Sycamore Street. That would be the address for Condon Insurance, and that 300,
Well,
300,
where do you live,
201, and 203, and I
Yeah.
live at 102 Sandalwood, Greenville, Ohio.
Thank you. That's what we need for the record.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
My name is Eric Brown, and just coming tonight to speak upon this topic. As I sit here tonight and listen to everybody share, I'm wearing several hats in this scenario. Property owner, tenant, and also represent several people within this new district. For those of you who don't know me, I own EB Real Estate. I'm the owner and broker of EB Real Estate, new company in town, 2.5 years. We're on East Main now, the old Edward Jones building. Just a lot of uncertainties, like Pete shared, that I think need to be clarified. And I think one of the things that has kind of stuck with me is we've got an architectural review board, and I know the folks that are on it now and absolutely have all the faith in the world in them, but those people change, you know. And when you were saying you're just going to put something in the hands of a board, you know, a couple election cycles or whatever that is done on, boy, that changes everything. And I would just hope that the council would take that into consideration with this vote. I'm sorry, 6521 Brown Road, Versailles, Ohio. I do not live in the city of Greenville. I apologize, but I do have my business here. I own lots of real estate in Darke County and Greenville, Ohio, and I'm proud to be here as a businessman and part of this community. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Mike Baker. Pete gave me a good segue, so I better say something here. 220 East 4th Street, Greenville. From a kind of like Eric, wearing a couple different hats. One of the things that I wanted to speak on is from a business standpoint and selling real estate for 37 years. We've come a long way in some of these areas. I mean, we've all went through these bad houses and the foreclosures. And if you Mrs. Neely took a walk last night, a lot of these have been improved. I think we've made some progress. I think we are making progress. I'm not sure that we need any more regulation to help with that. I don't think we need that. Secondly, from a standpoint, when you're sitting across the table from someone who wants to sell their house and they don't know the ins and the outs and so on, they want to know about zoning. They ask. They want to know, what's my house worth? And what makes my house worth is what zoning is. I don't think that making additional stress guidelines, because it is going to help the market. So I think the statement that it's improving the market by that is maybe we're not there yet. But I think that the improvements are kind of doing on their own, doing very well with some of these houses that need to be improved. Maybe not to the period changes, but I think that's one statement that I want to make. And the second thing is that I think that it's going to add to a market that's improving, but let's keep it going. It's kind of like increasing the interest rate. What do we do when we end up? We kind of press to control the market. Our market's pretty good right now. It's the best I've seen in 10 years. And I think any other agent would agree with that. So from the standpoint of that, and I'm speaking on myself, and not as a board of realtors or anything like that, but my own personal experience, that I think maybe the best thing maybe right now is to just leave it the way it is. Thank you.
His address.
May I?
Yes.
Hi, my name's Billy Tomlinson, and I live at 115 Gray Avenue. Just a couple quick points. I am opposed to extending the ARB district to the whole downtown enterprise. We have ongoing projects at our house, and I'm kind of curious how that impacts people if this does pass. What if they're in the middle of installing their windows, or they're in the middle of installing their siding that they already have on the ground? We've worked with zoning in the past on sidewalk fences, but I really don't want to have to be told that if we're in the middle of siding our house that we can't finish it. The other thing I would like to bring up is the 22-page document. All the rules and guidelines that you have to follow, I believe, it's been a while since I read it, but if you check in there, I believe if you violate those rules and guidelines, there is a possibility of a misdemeanor. Now, as a homeowner with a career, I'm not really looking forward to violating the law in any way, but I also don't want to have to go before a review board to improve our property as well. I mean, we already go through zoning, and I'm fine with that. As far as the architectural review board, I don't know them personally, and they may have passed everything that has come before them, but I was talking to the manager of the Palace, and I do know that he had to go through quite a bit, I believe it was 9 months, to seek approval to replace the windows in the Palace. So it's not an easy process. I would recommend that you exclude the single-family residence from the expansion. That's just my recommendation and my hope, because I do think the market is improving. I see a lot of people remodeling their houses. And actually, I see a lot of improvement just within the last 5 years. We've lived there almost 17 years. So that is my recommendation. Thank you.
Anyone else? It's been about an hour on these 3 items here, very quickly, so I don't want to cut anyone short. I want to be accused of, tapping the gavel, moving the agenda if someone else wants to speak. But I thank everyone for your input. Those pieces of legislation are not on the agenda this evening. They are ready to be added to next week's agenda. And they come to, these pieces of legislation comes from the Zoning and Planning Commission to the City Council recommending that all of these be approved. And in order to not go along with the Zoning and Planning's recommendation, it takes a vote of 6 negatives to counteract or to go against the Zoning and Planning Committee's recommendation, or commission, I should say. So that is the process that we now go through. What we were presented, or what was sent to the City Council by the Zoning and Planning, is 1 recommendation for addition to the zoning text section 28.08G, pedestrian signs. Pedestrian signs must be a minimum of 8 feet above the ground and must be no larger than the size of 5 square feet. 1 pedestrian sign per business is permitted at store entrance only. Duplicate signs at alternative entrance are subject to architectural review board approval. Pedestrian signs will not count towards the maximum square foot of signs allotted. The bracket hanger, for the sign is as important as the sign, projecting no more than 4 feet from the building. Bracket material shall be metal and complement other metal features of the building. Pedestrian signs do not require approval of the Architectural Review Board. That's item 1. Item 2 is recommendation for addition to the zoning text, section 28.08H mural. I can't even read. Mural is a piece of artwork painted or applied directly to a wall or other permanent surface. Murals intended to serve as an artistic and or historic function are allowed with Architectural Review Board approval. A letter of recommendation from Main Street Greenville is a requirement for the ARB application for approval. That's item 2. And item 3, the one we spent most of the time on, is very simply stated. Recommend a change to the architectural review district. Boundaries be extended to cover the full downtown enterprise zone district. That's all it says. Okay? So copies of that are available if you need those, and that's what council will have to act on at the next regular meeting, which will be next week, because we have 2 meetings in a row. Unless anyone else wants to address council at this time?
May I ask a couple of questions on what you just stated?
Yes.
Will the council, usually on legislation that has this impact, it goes, instead of suspending the rules, will it go for the full 3 readings over 3 meetings?
That's council's choice. If you so choose, that would be good. If not, that's, you have the power of the vote.
And if this doesn't pass, is it a possibility for it to come back in another form, or would it be a better benefit that it would be go to committees for revisions?
Well, since it came from the zoning and planning, I think the next step would be go back to them.
What would be the steps to take for it to go back to the planning and zoning? Just not passing it and then have to start the process over again?
That would be my understanding, yes.
Okay.
And recommend that it come back as 3 separate pieces of legislation, not just one grouped together?
Well, they are.
They are separate.
Yeah, they are.
When we vote, it'll be
Yes.
3 separate, okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Further questions?
I will make this quick.
Okay.
Matt Stogler, 450 East 4th. I'm also the Executive Director of the Dark County Visitors Bureau. As you're all aware, we are to our 3rd reading on our kiosk project that we have been partnering with Main Street Greenville on. It has come to my attention that there continues to be concerns from the city regarding this project in regards to design and location. So in a spirit of cooperation and goodwill, if it's procedurally available, we are requesting that this legislation be pulled from tonight so we can continue to work with the city on this project to a hopeful, successful conclusion.
I'm trying to think how we can do this properly, Matt. Okay. So
We've had 2 readings. We've had 2 readings.
Well, the 3rd reading would be given at the by the clerk, but with council's general consensus or a motion to strike that from the agenda, we could do that, suspend the
Still
rules.
strike it from the agenda?
Pardon?
Still strike it from the agenda?
Yes.
I suppose you could amend the agenda this late, yes.
Or would it be better just when it comes up, just to table it?
Well, you have certain regulations about what you have to do with the table.
Yeah, but that's okay. That'll be the next one.
But if tabled and lied,
Go to the next meeting.
Go to the next meeting, or if it doesn't act it on the next meeting, it's dead.
yeah.
That is acceptable.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Could I make a comment? I personally, myself, I think that kiosk is important for the downtown area for the pedestrian traffic. No, the vehicles up and down Broadway is not going to see it. It's not necessarily intended for them to see it. It's for pedestrian traffic only. And in the location in front of the Welcome Center, I think would be the best location for it, for a couple different reasons. That is kind of the center of the business district downtown. And secondly is the insurance would be covered on it through the Visitors Bureau and Main Street, since it's in front of the building or in the Welcome Center. Where if it was moved to another location, it would have to be an additional expense to the Visitors Bureau in Main Street, Greenville. So I feel that we should, at some point, have this passed.
Thank you, Mr. Rogers. He's absolutely correct. With our, there's been discussion that the location in front of the Welcome Center is not ideal. Should we need to move it to another location, we would incur an additional cost because we would have to add a rider to our insurance policy to do that. With the proximity to our office space, that kiosk would be grandfathered into our property and liability insurance, so it would save us money. And in addition to, it continues to be our opinion that the Welcome Center area is that 400 block. If you look at a 24-hour block of traffic, daytime traffic between our Welcome Center and the KitchenAid Experience during the day, and nighttime traffic at the Merchant House at night. Specifically, if you come downtown at 7:30 on a Thursday, there are cars all over that 400 block where you don't traditionally see them on the 500 block or the 300 block. So, yes, the mayor just passed around. That is our completed kiosk. That is an image of what exactly it looks like. Again, the downtown kiosk will have the downtown map, which I also have. I'm sorry, Steve, I'm going to make you get up one more time. That's the downtown map. But these, yes, correct. So those that you're looking at, the completed kiosk, we're scheduled to have 2 of those installed at Eldora Speedway tomorrow, just in time for the Kings Royal and the truck race next week, and then also to be delivered for sales as well. So,
if I might add, and this would address what Mr. Rogers was bringing up, Matt and the Aaron Moran, the president of the Visitors Board, the mayor, the planning and zoning director, the safety service director, and myself and Mr. Hensley have kind of met and discussed and kind of what happened tonight with the public meeting. If there was a possibility to have this ahead of time, there might have not been the concerns brought up, and we could address this head on before it became legislation. And actually, Matt has been very accommodating in bringing forth the information that concerning what's going on in the kiosks, and then addressing another concern was the actual kiosk that would be installed downtown Greenville and how it would fit the streetscape of the current, and they're addressing that issue. And so it's been a very, very favorable discussion and outcome and working together, and that's why Matt is asking for that to be tabled tonight. And then one of the issues that we did not understand was the issue with the insurance. If it would be somewhere else, like you said, they would either have to have a rider, or the city would have to take ownership of it, and then we would be charged with maintaining it also. And those were things that I think needed to be addressed. And so it's going to come back, and probably come back shortly in another form, and probably with a lot favorable result, because I think this is something that will enhance the overall appeal to the many people that come into the community. One thing is the location. We're still discussing that, but it will be resolved before it comes back to council at that time. So, Matt, thank you very much for coming tonight.
Yep. Thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, final call for anyone else to address council. We're going to move the agenda.
Would it be permissible, because there's a lot of people that did not speak, and I'm assuming, looking at some of them, and because they've already talked to me, that they're not for the architectural review expanding, is it?
We've gotten a lot of communications from other individuals, and I'm happy to say that all the communications we've received had been signed and dated, and that's the only kind of communication we will accept. And if you don't sign it and want to write it anonymously, we won't read it, quite frankly. But anyway.
Is it possible to get some show of of who's for or against or not?
That's what you want to do. I don't have a problem with it. We just need to move the agenda.
Against?
Not in favor of, yes.
Yes. For?
In favor of.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on to administrative reports, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, seeing a timeline, I think that I would like to bring up one thing. I hope everybody enjoyed the 4th of July fireworks. It's everything I really have, and yeah. Had a good crowd out there, so make it bigger and better. So there was no problems during the fireworks, except they had a little bit of a glitch where he forgot to shoot off a few and had a few extras at the end of the night. But other than that, appreciate everybody showing up. That's it.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Would you clarify that the giant fireball at the end was planned?
Right.
And
There was two times, once before the finale and once after the finale. And yes, they were planned.
I appreciate
next year
Kurt
they'll be
letting me know
green.
ahead of time. But I had a couple calls on that, and,
Oh, yeah.
and I assured everyone that no, there wasn't a mistake. It was planned.
Yeah, no mistakes, no problems.
The ones that didn't go off, did you take them home?
No, they shot them off
They
later
shot
on.
them off after everybody left.
Later.
Yeah, I didn't know until the next day. Yeah, so they were good though. I enjoyed them. Thanks, I pass.
Okay, thank you. Safety Service Director, Mr. Garrison.
Thank you, Mr. Council President. You have my report in front of you, and I will not be quite so short. Starting off with ongoing projects, the 4 Schweitzer Street project. Just to let everybody know that the project is moving along. Water and sewer lines continue to be installed. The contractor working their way from Pine Street up towards the curve. They're almost to the curve. Hopefully, if the rain or the weather cooperates, we will be into the section of 4th Street by the middle of next week. We have received a few phone calls and understand that the intersection of Pine and Schweitzer is not really pleasant at this current time due to the 3 trenches that needed to be installed for the water tie-ins. We were working with the contractor to try to make that area as smooth as possible. If you've been through the park and able to attend our first 2 band concerts on Sunday evening, you will see that the band shell project is moving right along. Again, unfortunately, Mother Nature has not cooperated with us, and at this point, we currently have the footer and foundation in the ground, and we are ready to begin the floor framing and the plumbing for the restrooms. Most likely that will happen next week. And then as far as ongoing projects, it's actually a project that has been completed in the landfill. Earlier this year, you approved an expense of approximately $58,000 to install a fixed blower system to rectify a methane gas issue that was migrating to the Old Wine Trailer Park. I am glad to tell you that your $58,000 was spent and the problem has been corrected. We have done ground testing next to the Old Wine Trailer Park, and the methane gas level is 0. Now, we were able to achieve that level of 0 in approximately 3 days of running the blower, 24 hours. We will continue to monitor the gas level, and it is our hope that we will be able to shut the blower off for a period of time, see the results of the methane gas level, and as the levels, they may not come back or they may increase gradually, and when they get to a certain level, we will manually turn the blower back on and decrease those levels. And we hope to be able to submit a plan to the EPA that will allow us to do such. Now, that's all we have for ongoing projects. Moving on to upcoming projects. And this is where I'm going to ask you to refer to the packet of papers that I presented you this evening. The first project that I'd like to speak to is the North Ohio Sidewalk Project. This would be the installation of sidewalks in front of the nursing home that would connect the area of our project from last year to the existing sidewalks just south of Greenmore Drive. The engineer's estimate for this project is $146,474. You had approved a contract with Choice One Engineering to conduct the design. So we are through the design process. We have an engineer's estimate. Our next step is to put the project out for bid if you are willing to move forward. At the beginning of this year, through a CIP submission, we have appropriated $135,000 for this project. What I will tell you is that in the design process, we had the engineer spec, for lack of better terms, strobe lights that would be installed around the pedestrian signs.
Yeah.
So there would be LED lit strobe lights that would bring awareness to the pedestrian signs. That was $20,000 of the estimate. So if we were to remove those remove those lights and maybe do them as a separate project, we would have this project within budget. Now, we could also put it out for bid as it is spec'd, see where the bids come back, and if it's over budget, we can non-perform. They're actually called beacon lights, not strobe lights.
What, wasn't the school approached about that at one time, and they said they weren't interested in doing that?
The school has really taken no participation in the signage and basically taken the stance that the city controls the signs and allowed us to do what we felt was sufficient through our traffic engineer.
Okay.
So tonight, this evening, what I'm asking for on the North Ohio Street project is if you would be willing to allow for legislation to be prepared that we may bid this project, and we would have the legislation prepared for the next week's meeting.
Absolutely. It's imperative we put sidewalks where we're gonna put our children to cross and walk in that area. I mean, it's bad enough we didn't have enough money to do it with the whole project, but now it's time to catch up.
Could we bid it both ways and then be able to look at it to see if it?
We could change the estimate and actually have the beacon lights as an alternate. Rather than doing non-performing, we can just bid them as an alternate, and then we can either approve or disapprove the alternate.
All right.
Okay? All right, we'll have that for you at the next meeting. The next project would be the 2017 maintenance paving project. You have already approved the bidding of that project, and we did receive one bid from Walls Brothers. Their bid amount was $949,197.35. City Council, again through a CIP submission, has appropriated $726,804. Obviously, we have not, we're a little over budget on this project, and the bid is in front of council this evening to accept that bid in the form of legislation. Do you have any questions?
Where's the rest of the money coming from?
We would need to appropriate more money to the CIP.
I guess I would ask the auditor, is there funds available?
I would suggest that maybe the finance committee could come together and look at the line to see if we have carryover funds that would be sufficient to cover that.
We have our regularly scheduled meeting next week.
Yeah.
And we want this to get done in a timely manner. I don't know if the other guys are able to meet within the next week.
I'm sure we could work something out.
And then, we could have the report, and then if the report passes, we could have legislation and put on the agenda at next week's meeting. Would that be sufficient?
Would either say that, or we can non-perform. At this point, we can non-perform the contract to accommodate the budget.
I would.
But the thing, we have a bid. The bid is good for 30 days. We've put a completion date of, I believe, 1st of September. The contractors were ready to start the 1st of August.
So something would have to fall off the list.
Correct.
And,
It was an aggressive list to begin with,
Yes.
and historically, that's probably the largest amount we've had for road paving
Right.
that I can remember.
The other point that I would like to make is, we did not go into bidding this project not knowing that it was going to cost more. If you remember correctly, our engineer's estimate was $1.2 million, and this council still gave me the approval to go ahead and bid the project knowing that.
Right.
I would make that assignment to the finance committee, to
We'll-
review that.
And we'll have it ready by next
We
week.
have it ready by next week. Okay,
Yes.
Due date. Second meeting in July, to review the paving shortfall and the budget.
Just for clarification, will council be able to continue with the first reading of the ordinance that's on the agenda?
Sure.
Okay, moving on to the next project, the HVAC project. The study has been completed. I can't say that the numbers that we received in the study are favorable, but they are what they are, and would like to go over those with you. The engineering and design of the new HVAC system for this building, the fire department, and the police annex, cost of engineering and design is $36,500. The engineer's estimate as far as construction for all three buildings is $419,125. Various alternates that I had the engineer look at while he was doing the study was $141,625. Some of those alternates include the replacing of the two boilers downstairs, the boiler motors, the hot water heaters, all of which are gas-fired and reaching the end of their useful life as far as age. And there would be some return on investment just due to the energy savings that new equipment would bring. However, I understand that $597,250 is a lot of money for an HVAC upgrade. I believe Mr. Tryon suggested when we originally started this process of looking at the HVAC that a committee may be formed to look at the proposed upgrade and also the finances. Would also let you know that since this study has been completed, we've lost an AC unit on top of well, we didn't lose it, it quit working on top of the police department. So part of that building is without air at this time. And we have 2 units down on this building, obviously not wanting to spend about $4,000 per unit if we're going to complete this work. And then the other thing that goes along with the police annex is that I gave you the termite story at the last meeting, and we know that we're most likely looking at a complete roof replacement, and we feel it would be best to remove those AC units from the roof, bring them down to ground level, but then that's going to cost us about $85,000 to $90,000 for a new roof repair, or new roof, not a repair.
That's not in this.
That's not in this, 2 separate issues.
Right.
So how would council like to proceed?
Another committee for finance assignment, and to incorporate not only that, but the roof.
Yeah, that would be good. will you have further information on the roof replacement or?
Well, I mean, I have an estimate. The roof
Yeah.
replacement is really fairly simple. We know that it needs to be done. It's a rubber flat roof. We can go out and get estimates. We've received one. We know where we're going to be at ballpark-wise as far as costs. The HVAC, if you want to have a committee assignment, I would be more than happy to have Mr. Miller, who did the study, make a presentation to that committee and kind of go through what he found, why he thinks things need to be done the way he has suggested. I would tell you that in I think it was 94, when a lot of this HVAC equipment was put in, it was done as inexpensive as possible. And for that reason, you know, we have areas, we have corridors in this building that are not conditioned. So we have to leave our office doors open. Obviously, if you want to like cool the hallway, you have the dual system. Some places you have forced air, other places you have the hot water. We have found that one of the biggest concerns that we have as far as our HVAC, when you calculate the need for heating and air, one of the things you calculate into that is fresh air or air turnover. We don't have much air turnover. We are constantly breathing recirculated air. We're not bringing in a lot of outside air, which is needed for a properly balanced system. Properly balanced system operates in the most efficient manner.
Well, I thought everyone said we had a lot of hot air up here anyway.
Well, there you go.
But
Wintertime's not the problem.
Yeah. I think the hot air comes from this side. But you would need the roof replaced before you put new units on top. That'd be.
We need to do the HVAC, then we need to do the roof.
Yeah.
Because we need to get the units off of
The
the.
roof unit's coming down.
Unless we wait till September, October, and then we could just disconnect all of the AC units and have them put in back.
That's assuming it's going to be a nice September, October.
Well,
We will put this as part of our meeting that we'll schedule, try to have done completed before next week.
Will that work, Mr.?
Sure. Just let me know when that meeting is, and I'll make sure that
We'll let you know as soon as-
Miller is able to attend.
That's separate
Separate
assignment.
assignment, yes.
That's HVAC and roof together though, right? Okay.
And I have included, just in your packet, I've included the portion of the HVAC study, which you can review before that meeting. And then on the last page that I've given you, kind of a breakdown of totals of what each area would cost. The next issue I'd like to speak on is dispatch. I believe, 2 weeks ago now, we had a committee meeting discussing the city dispatch versus maybe going to a centralized dispatch with the county. I told you at this meeting I would bring you back more firm numbers. At that committee meeting, I believe we threw out a number of like $296,000, which would upgrade our 2 consoles to the MARC system, as well as purchase 911 PSAP equipment, which would allow the city to continue to receive landline calls in the city of Greenville. And just as a point of clarification, even if we put 911 or PSAP equipment in our dispatch center, we will not be able to receive cell phone calls. When a person makes a call on a cell phone, it hits a tower that is outside of the city. So that technology states that that is technically a call that is originating from outside the city, and it would still go to the county. Now, we have been in conversation with a vendor. If the city of Greenville and Darke County were to work together and purchase the 911 equipment from the same vendor, It would make the process of information easier and quicker if we both use the same software. So with all that being said, we have received a ballpark price, if you will, of $256,000. And the reason that that price is ballpark is that the vendor chose not to put any kind of a price in writing, just due to the public bidding requirements that will have to happen if we move forward with this project. And then moving to the last item under miscellaneous topics, again, we had a special meeting on June the 27th, and at that special meeting, Nate Green from the Montrose Group was able to give us a presentation on downtown redevelopment districts. And at the conclusion of that special meeting, was discussed that to move forward with the establishment of those districts, the city would need to enter a contract with the Montrose Group in the amount of $20,000, and they would begin the process of establishing those districts and any number of districts that we wish to have within the city. This being the first council meeting that I've been able to attend after that presentation, would just like to ask council if they have any questions regarding the redevelopment districts and inquiring on how they would like to proceed.
As I said at that meeting, it sounds too good to be true. What's the downside? And no one actually presented to me a downside. I still think it's too good to be true. I want it to be true. I think this would be far better for the entire community than perhaps taking the architectural review district and expanding it. I'm in favor of proceeding, but I want to proceed cautiously because I'm still looking for a downside.
I've thought about that, Mr. Alder, and I would tell you my opinion of what the biggest downside to this whole process would be, is that if we spend $20,000 on this economic development tool and never use it, that would be the biggest downside to it.
But it would be open to, on a voluntary basis, involvement from the citizens, from the property owners, et cetera.
Once the district is established, we will receive the TIF. If there is an increase in property tax, we will receive 70% of that to be reinvested in infrastructure or buildings. This council, this body, one of the scenarios that was given was that the TIF money, anticipation of the TIF money, the city could make loans. You know, and I heard on social media there were folks who's like, you know, the city shouldn't be developers, the city shouldn't be a banker. Well, that is true to an extent, but we should be in the business of promoting economic development. And I would hope that, you know, we might look at this promotion as incentives, or these loans as incentives, similar to what we were able to do for Whirlpool. We would do on a much smaller basis for businesses within these development districts. You know, in no way am I sitting here and saying, you know, we need to support 100% of someone's development. But, you know, we could, upon a presentation from a developer, support a portion of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think there's various ways that this could be used, and like I said, I think the biggest downside would be that if we have this tool and we fail to use it.
I heard an if there a while ago. You said if property taxes go up, that we would get 70%. What is that if?
I guess if is probably the wrong word, because we all know our property taxes are going to go up, right?
Well,
unless we do nothing and the building deteriorates and/or it gets tore down and it becomes vacant land. Property taxes generally.
And that 70% is only 70% of the
increase.
The increase in that district only. But the nice part about it is you could take that 70%, you could salt the fund with CIP money that we have, you know, each year we could put some in there. And even if you don't want to put the money out for individual businesses, you know, for loans or whatnot, you could take it and use it for the infrastructure in that area. That benefits everyone. Whether goes to redo the street or the sidewalks.
Lighting?
The lighting, things like that, you know, that would enhance the district. When you enhance the district, what's going to happen? Property value is going to go up. You know, it's a given. You know, it's a possible tool that could be used to enhance the city in revitalizing some areas that are tied to historical districts, you know, make gateways around the town. You know, it's not requiring people to have to upgrade. It's not putting the stringent restrictions on them either.
Well, as I believe the Neelys, and are they still there? Yes.
Yep.
There were a couple places they referred to that were not in the downtown enterprise area, but they would qualify in this historical. So, like I said, I think it could easily do the whole community more good.
You know, if I may, Kurt, just give one more example. Next year, they'll be starting the project for redoing North Broadway from the Circle all the way out to Russ Road. We found that when we redid Gardenwood, how nice that area looked after it's done. This project, the sidewalks on both sides are included. We found that when we did the school area, one of the things was to add street lighting. But we didn't have the money, you know, we didn't have the monies to upgrade all the way to a more decorative, but we put it a higher quality lighting than what's around. But North Broadway, if you had these kind of funds tied in with that type of district, could you imagine what kind of lighting you could actually take what is on Broadway, South Broadway currently, and stretch all the way out to Russ Road? How would that enhance the entrance to the city of that corridor? You know, we're looking at 4th Street right now. If it wrapped all the way around down to the intersection of Pine and 121 coming in, you know, what would that do? You know, those are things that could be enhanced.
We'll just remind you, in the redevelopment district, you will receive an increase in, if a residential property is in the district and it increases in property value, you're able to obtain 70% of that increase. But your money cannot be used specifically for residential. You can improve sidewalks, you can improve lighting, various infrastructure in front of houses, but you could not make the same incentives and/or grants or loans to a residential.
Residential properties.
So I guess the question is, you know, do you wish to proceed with this? Or do you wish to say it's a great idea, but now's not the right time?
Yeah, I think proceed with it.
I would proceed.
I concur.
You have-
Consensus is?
Move forward.
See where it goes.
Okay.
And then the last item I have for you this evening, via email, add this to the bottom of the list. Via email, I received a letter from Mark McDaniel, who is the CEO of the Tri-County Board of Mental Health. And Mark has informed us that they are in the process of negotiations. They, being the Tri-County Board, is in negotiations with the Darke County Commissioners to purchase the county home, and contingent upon the sale of the county home to the Tri-County Board, the Tri-County Board is investigating city services, that being water and sanitary sewer, and was inquiring about a pre-annexation agreement, which we have required of other entities. City Council's process has been in the past to handle each request on an individual basis. I'm taking Mr. McDaniel's letter as his request to this body for city services contingent upon the sale of the property. So just letting you know that that's happened, and we hopefully can have another committee assignment that would review that request. And with all that, Mr. Council President, I pass.
What about on issue 3? You didn't handle B.
I figured that would come up later. If you have specific questions about it, I'll be more than happy to address it. Not sure how or what, and how in depth you want to get with that this evening. You all have a copy in front of you.
Thank you, sir. Wow, where are we? Law Director, Mr. Brand.
As an act of mercy, I'll pass.
Thank you. City Auditor, Mrs. Wolman.
I just have one item to bring forward. If you'll recall, last year around this time, I was asking the council, all elected officials have to participate in public records training. And I am going to go to public records training in August at Dublin, Ohio. And I was wondering if all of you would like for me to do your training for you. What I found out from the auditors was you have to officially vote on it, and it has to be recorded in the minutes for it to be valid. So I'm asking you at this point if you would like me to do your training for you.
A motion to have the auditor,
Second and third.
Mrs. Willman, act on our behalf at the records training.
I don't know whether we'll recognize that motion.
If not, you're going to.
I will die instantly. Okay, motion by Mr. Tryon to have the Auditor Willman, be the training of
Public records
training on our behalf. Discussion?
Uh,
Call the roll, please. Quick.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hattershell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
That train was coming down the track.
Let it so show that it was a unanimous vote.
Thank you.
Pass.
Thank you. Moving on to committee reports. First is ad hoc committee assignment. The review the feasibility of the Greenville City Dispatch. The report was submitted. Go ahead, read the report.
June 28, 2017. Honorable members, we hereby submit our report. The ad hoc committee met on Wednesday, June 28, 2017, to review the feasibility of the Greenville City Dispatch. The committee reviewed the options as presented by Lieutenant Ross to maintain a dispatch function within the city. The consensus of the committee was to maintain the city dispatch function and to upgrade the console and portable radios to the MARC system. Also to maintain the city's 911 public safety answering points with 2 points of service and an upgrade of the fire department base station in the duty office. The committee recommends to reject the county's office of centralized dispatch and maintain the current dispatch city center. The committee also recommends to fund the necessary infrastructure improvements in the 2018 budget cycle. The committee suggests the funding be reviewed by the Finance Committee. Respectfully submitted Committee on Ad Hoc, Chairman John Hensley, Vice Chairman Doug Schmidt, and Member Tracy Tryon.
Motion to accept the committee's report?
Motion by Mr. Oliver to accept the committee's report. Discussion?
Just a point of clarification, on the report where it says to reject the commissioner's bid, that, or offer, that was the original offer that came.
Yes.
And at the time we had the committee report, we had no other information to go on, even though an invite was extended to the members of the commission, county commission, and sheriff's department. No one responded, so that's what we were basing it on. At this time, I still stand 100% behind the committee report, but today, a little after 3 o'clock, we received information, that's what I was referring to earlier, from Commissioner Altman, with a rough draft, first draft proposal of an agreement. And I think that it would be in the best interest of this council to take the time to have the law director, the safety service director, and other administrative people look at this before we consider actually voting on this ad hoc committee report. And I would make a motion to table that report at this time.
Motion by Mr. Tryon to table report. The motion to table is non-debatable.
You already have a motion. You already have a motion.
You already have a motion.
He'd have to withdraw his motion.
That's correct. I'm sorry. Thank you.
It is with mixed feelings I withdraw that motion.
Okay. Mr. Oliver has withdrawn his motion to accept the committee report. Now, Mr. Tryon.
I would make a motion to table the committee report, and I just want to make clarification. It would come up at the next meeting, which would be next week. And at that time, I think we would have ample opportunity to get some feedback from the safety service director, the police fire chief, the law director, and others. I don't know if you'd want this to go back to the ad hoc committee for further review also.
I don't believe at this time.
All right, thank you.
So we do have a motion to table. Non-debatable, call the roll, please.
Schmidt?
No.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
No.
Hensley?
No.
Hottishell?
No.
Oliver?
No.
Rogers?
Yes.
Okay, motion to table fails. So now we have to have a motion to do something else.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Hensley to approve the committee report. Discussion. Call the roll.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
No.
The report passes 6-1. Next, we have a Finance Committee assignment, review the preliminary budget for 2018. We had the hearing earlier today, this evening, public hearing, and now we are ready for the report of the committee.
A report dated June 28, 2017. Honorable members, we hereby submit our report. The Finance Committee met on May 23, 2017 and June 28, 2017 to go over submission requests for the 2018 preliminary budget. The committee finds that the figures provided by the auditor balance and recommends that council approve the proposed budget submission so that the 2018 preliminary budget can be filed with the County Budget Commission. Respectfully submitted, Committee on Finance, Chairman Tracy Tryon, Vice Chairman Doug Schmidt, and Member John Hensley.
Move to accept this committee's report.
Motion by Mr. Oliver to accept the committee's report. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
And next, the Miscellaneous and Priority Needs Committee, an assignment to review the rules, regulations, and charges, for fountain lights.
A report dated June 29, 2017. Honorable members, we hereby submit a report. The Miscellaneous Affairs and Priority Needs Committee met on June 12, 2017 and June 27, 2017 to review the rules, regulations, and charges for the fountain lights. The committee recommends making the following changes to the application. On item B of the application, specify that the area local pertains to. On item E of the application, specify that if the application is denied, a refund will be given. Remove the word inappropriate from item number 2 on the application and change the fee amount to $20. The committee also recommends that the necessary legislation be provided. Respectfully submitted, Committee on Miscellaneous Affairs and Priority Needs, Chairman Dory Hattishell, Vice Chairman Todd Oliver, and Member Leon Rogers.
Make a motion to accept the committee report.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to accept the committee's report. Discussion. Is the application attached so we know what the, okay, changes are? Further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That concludes our committee reports. Now we have ordinances and resolutions to consider, and the first is the ordinance to contract with the Dark County Visitors Bureau and Main Street Greenville for granting a variance, given first reading by title June 6th and second reading on June 20th.
Point of order.
Yes.
We discussed this earlier in the public hearing. Would now be the time to table or after the reading?
After the reading.
Okay.
An ordinance to approve a contract with Dark County Visitors Bureau and Main Street Greenville and grant a variance. This ordinance authorizes the Safety Service Director to enter into a contract with the Dark County Visitors Bureau and Main Street Greenville in order to grant a variance to permit a kiosk installation on the city right-of-way on Broadway. This ordinance was given its first reading on June 6, 2017, and its second reading on June 20th, 2017.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to table this ordinance as we are continually working to define and betterment the legislation.
Motion to table by Mr. Tryon. Call the roll, please.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
And next, we have an ordinance to supplemental appropriations.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2017. This ordinance authorizes appropriations to the general fund for transfers general in the amount of $150,000. These funds represent the state grant funds for the band shell reconstruction and will be reimbursed to the general fund, and to the park fund for future park development park in the amount of $150,000. These funds represent the state grant funds for the band shell reconstruction.
Mr. Council President, I move to suspend the rules on this ordinance and read it by title only, second, third time.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to suspend the rules, read the ordinance by title, second, third time. Discussion. Call the roll.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2017. An ordinance to make additional appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Greenville, State of Ohio during the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2017.
Move to adopt the ordinance.
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance. Discussion. Call the roll.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Next, we have an ordinance to suspend enforcement of the codified ordinance, chapter 828, for the world's longest yard sale and declaring an emergency.
An ordinance to suspend enforcement of codified ordinances, Chapter 828, pertaining to the conduct of home sales from August 3rd, 2017 at 12:01 a.m. through August 6th, 2017 at 11:59 p.m. in connection with the conduct of the world's longest yard sale event and declaring an emergency. This ordinance suspends the enforcement of the codified ordinance, Chapter 828, pertaining to the conduct of home sales from August 3rd, 2017 at 12:01 a.m. through August 6th, 2017 at 11:59 p.m. for the world's longest yard sale event in order to promote and stimulate tourism and the economic vitality of the city. This ordinance has an emergency clause.
Motion to suspend the rules, give this ordinance reading by title only for a second, third time.
Motion by Mr. Tryon to suspend the rules, read the ordinance by title, second, third time. Discussion. Call the roll.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
An ordinance to suspend enforcement of codified ordinances, Chapter 828, pertaining to the conduct of home sales from August 3rd, 2017 at 12:01 a.m. through August 6th, 2017 at 11:59 p.m. in connection with the conduct of the world's longest yard sale event and declaring an emergency. An ordinance to suspend enforcement of codified ordinances, Chapter 828, pertaining to the conduct of home sales from August 3rd, 2017 at 12:01 a.m. through August 6th, 2017 at 11:59 p.m. in connection with the conduct of the world's longest yard sale event and declaring an emergency.
Move to adopt the emergency clause.
Motion by Mr. Oliver to adopt the emergency clause. Discussion. Call the roll.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes. Move to Move to adopt the ordinance?
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the ordinance. Discussion. Call the roll.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Next, we have a resolution for hiring and compensation of assistant directors of law effective July 1, 2017.
A resolution for hiring and compensation of Assistant Directors of Law effective July 1st, 2017. This resolution authorizes the Director of Law to appoint Joseph Lawtus to provide the services of Assistant Law Director effective July 1st, 2017 at the initial rate of $20,000 per year.
Move to suspend the rules and give this resolution a reading by title only, second and third time.
Motion by Mr. Oliver to suspend the rules, read the resolution by title, second, third time. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
A resolution for hiring and compensation of Assistant Directors of Law effective July 1st, 2017. A resolution for hiring and compensation of Assistant Directors of Law effective July 1st, 2017.
Motion to adopt.
Motion by Mrs. Howdishow to adopt the resolution. Discussion.
Yeah, why do we need a second one? Are we,
The budget allowed for it. It was provided for
Yeah.
2 years ago, actually, or 3 now.
okay.
Further discussion? Call the roll.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
And next, we have a resolution to accept the bids for street paving for 2017.
A resolution accepting bid for street paving for 2017. This resolution authorizes the Safety Service Director to accept the bid of Walls Brothers Asphalt Incorporated for the 2017 street paving project.
This is one we're going to do by the first reading and let that go. Okay? Now, okay, item 6, resolution to submit application with the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement Program and declaring an emergency.
A resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement and/or Local Transportation Improvement Program and to execute contracts as required and declaring an emergency. This resolution authorizes the Safety Service Director to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission Program in order to receive financial assistance for capital improvements to public infrastructure on North Broadway. This resolution has an emergency clause.
Mr. Council President, I move to suspend the rules on this resolution and read it by title only, second and third time.
Motion by Mr. Godwin to suspend the rules, read the resolution by title, second and third time. Discussion. Call roll, please.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
A resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement and/or Local Transportation Improvement Program and to execute contracts as required and declaring an emergency. A resolution authorizing the Safety Service Director to prepare and submit an application to participate in the Ohio Public Works Commission State Capital Improvement and/or Local Transportation Improvement Program and to execute contracts as required and declaring an emergency.
Motion to adopt the emergency clause.
Motion by Mr. Tryon to adopt the emergency clause. Discussion. Call the roll, please.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes. Move to adopt the resolution?
Motion by Mr. Rogers to adopt the resolution. Discussion. Call the roll.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley? Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Okay, that concludes our ordinances and resolutions. We have nothing under old business, one item under new business.
A letter dated June 28, 2017. Dear Clerk, please advise the members of council pursuant to section 452.125, the Safety Service Director and I have established a handicap parking space at 239 East 5th Street, Greenville, Ohio. Respectfully, Chief Dennis L. Butts.
Third signature here. There you go. Okay. Communications.
Monthly reports were received from the Fire Department, Income Tax Department, Police Department, and Transit Department. A letter dated June 20th, 2017 was received from the Ohio Department of Transportation regarding safety improvements at the intersection of US 127 and Krukeberg Road. A brochure was received from John Deere regarding equipment purchasing. An email from Amy Barger was received on June 20th, 2017, voicing her support of the kiosk issue. Multiple letters were received from residents of Greenville regarding their concerns of the establishment of a redevelopment district, and a letter was received dated July 10, 2017 from Bob Nelson regarding his concerns of the architectural district boundaries. These reports, email, brochure, and letters were distributed.
That's it. That's funny. Wow. Well, we've been at it over 2 hours, so
That's not
with
bad.
that, we'll call down the council, please.
Mr. Schmidt?
I'd just like to thank everyone for coming up tonight. We had a packed house, and it's good to see everyone get involved. We do appreciate it, and that way we can hear your opinions and you get a chance to share. I know it's not always easy to get up and speak in front of the crowd, but we do appreciate it. With that, I'll pass.
Mr. Tryon?
The ad hoc committee report indicated a future assignment for finance to review the feasibility of that report. Is that going to be made this evening?
Feasibility of what?
The funding, the increase in dispatch. That was part of the report, too.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Well, it probably should go to finance, right? So we will make I will make that assignment to the finance committee to review the funding for the continued dispatch. If things change because of some of the other issues that have now been presented to council, I will go from there.
So we should, we should consider the information received this afternoon in that
I would think so,
discussion?
yeah.
All right, thank you. And when will it be due?
Can you do all that before next week?
Believe it or not, the ad hoc committee was just a rearrangement of the finance committee.
know.
So I believe those guys are very up to the task. And we will do our best to have all that done by next week. But lunch is on somebody.
I'm counting on
I think the mayor said he'd buy
you.
it.
Yeah, I heard something.
Yeah, I heard that.
Mr. Godwin?
I'd just like to thank everybody for coming up tonight, and, like Mr. Schmidt said, it's good to have public input. This helps make the decisions a little bit easier, and with that, I'll pass.
Mr. Hensley?
I will pass.
Mrs. Sowdeshell?
I'd like to echo again, thank you for everybody coming out. It is nice to see a good crowd. And at this time, I would like to make a motion that we do the pledge before each council meeting. I think it's our country and we're trying to take it back, and I think that would be nice to do for respect.
For the audience's edification, we operate by a set of rules and regulations which we adopt semi-annually, or every 2 years when we start a new section of council. And it's called our Policies, Procedures, and Rules. And it's several pages long. It's been developed over the last, well, even before my predecessor, Mr. Hallberg, put this into play, and it's been tweaked and worked over the years, and it serves us quite well. It's kind of a council's rules and regulations that's a little different than Robert's Rules of Order. One in particular is that we don't require a second to any of our motions, and we are permitted to do that by law. Well, in that, in item 4.0 is the regular order of business, and A through M on the agenda every time is the same. So if we are going to incorporate that And I'm going to ask that we change the rules and add either an A and make that before the roll call, after the roll call. Probably would be more of after the roll call. We'll
Make my
add
motion to
it
that.
to B, and I would ask the clerk that we make that change, and then we can go from there. But we do have a motion by Mrs. Howdeshell that we add the Pledge of Allegiance to our regular order of business. Discussion. Call the roll.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Hottishell?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Anybody votes no would be tarred and feathered, right?
Take a knee.
And with that, I pass. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Oliver?
Okay, yes, thanks to everybody for their presence, their comments. It is difficult to speak in front of people. Ask any of us, we know. When I first came on council in 2006, things were kind of getting tight and financially. The audience was, well, you could hear the crickets out there, okay? So going on through 2008, 2009, financially things kind of got worse. And, you know, we went into a crunch. We downsized. We didn't pave streets, et cetera. Things are improving. I guess I just want to say that I've been in council just long enough to get into the habit of trying to make things work financially. And I guess I just now want to say caution to all my fellow council members. I looked at some of these reports today and I said, good Lord, we're starting to spend money like a drunken sailor. Yep. Yes, times are good. Yes, this is when we should spend money. Yes. But let's cautiously spend this money. Make sure we have it before we actually spend it. With that, I shall pass.
Mr. Rogers?
I kind of got to echo Todd's words. In 2007, I saw it coming, and in 2008, it hit us hard. It's not a matter of when it's going to happen, it's that it is going to happen again. So use caution. We all must pull in those purse strings and say it's going to happen again. Yes, we need to repave streets and et cetera, but we need to do it with caution. On another note is I went and donated blood before I came here. If you can donate blood, I would definitely appreciate it, and I'm sure that there's other people out there on the street that would appreciate it too. Thank you. Pass.
President Burkett?
Yes, on a bit of a personal note, we had, I have a good friend. He was the former mayor of Wayne Lakes, Gary Young. And he went by Gary Lee Young. And he'd been mayor of Wayne Lakes for quite a number of years.
About 22, I think.
Several years. Gary and he was known as Squire, went to high school together. We terrorized Ansonia High School. We got the moniker of the mad scientist, he and I. We did some crazy stuff. A lot of good memories. Had an unfortunate situation and he passed about not quite a month ago. Unfortunately, I was out of town. But it's just, you know, we're at that time in our lives when we're losing friends and good people, and it's very difficult. So our my particular thoughts and prayers go out to the family and members of that whole community because they suffer a loss. And we've lost some of our stalwarts here in Greenville as well. And it's just one of those things that happens. So. And again, I thank you all for coming and expressing your concerns. And I know there are a lot that didn't express concerns, but still, you are concerned, you're here, and I appreciate your showing up because it does show that you care. And that's our right, and that's our privilege to care. And we don't walk out of here having to worry about being arrested for attending a public meeting. So in many places in this world, you are. And we, again, thank our good friends from the 4th of July celebration, i.e. the Founding Fathers, for taking that step, that donated their time and their fortunes. And many of them, after they signed the Declaration of Independence, wound up broke because they put their time and their fortunes into making this country start and what it is. So thank you all for taking a part in it, and I think it's very, very admirable. With that, I would entertain a motion to
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Mr. Oliver to adjourn. Call the roll, please.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Tryon?
Yes.
Godwin?
Yes.
Hensley?
Yes.
Pettischall?
Yes.
Oliver?
Yes.
Rogers?
Yes.
Thank you all, and good night.
I can assure you.